Part 10. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hangu. Chapter 96. In a blink of an eye, a man walked in like a whirlwind. Zhang Jiaojiao raised her eyes, and her eyes were immediately attracted. The man who came in was slender, neither fat nor thin, with warm brows and a bold nose, clean and handsome. The man's eyebrows are as gentle as jade, like a spring breeze, and there is a faint smile on the corner of his mouth, like the spring breeze in March, which warms the heart and makes people very comfortable. The green bamboo straightgown is full of bookish atmosphere, with an elegant and noble temperament. Her eyes are gentle and her smile is like warm spring water. When their eyes met, the man's gentle eyes made Zhang Jiaojiao almost stop breathing. No wonder there are rumors outside that all the sons and daughters of the Wei family are unattainable. With such a handsome and warm man, coupled with the incredible wealth of the Wei family, whoever marries him will be really lucky. Grandma, my grandson didn't know you have a visitor here. My grandson will come back later to say hello. The man quickly looked away and was about to exit as he spoke. Mingzhou came in. It's Mrs. Zhang and Miss Zhang of Shangshufu. They are not outsiders and will not interfere with anything. Wei Mingzhou bowed his hands to mother and daughter Yang as a courtesy. Zhang Jiaojiao smiled shyly and said, I have met Mr. Wei San. Zhang Jiaojiao had met Wei Mingzhou from a distance before, and knowing that he was a concubine, she didn't pay much attention to him. A closer look shows that Wei Mingzhou is as handsome as his direct descendant. Yang turned sideways and said to Wei Mingzhou with a smile on his face, Third young master, hurry in. Jiao and I are about to go out. Madam, please. The maid led the way, and Yang followed. Zhang Jiaojiao had already stepped out of the flower hall, and couldn't help but look back at Wei Mingzhou. Grandma, my eldest sister is sick. My grandson will go to Qinglian Temple to pray for blessings tomorrow. Grandma, can I give you some money for some sesame oil? What? Clang. The sound of breaking porcelain was heard. Old lady. The maid's mother-in-law's exclamations came from the room. Zhang Jiaojiao quickly followed Yang's pace. It turns out that Mrs. Wei didn't know what was going on in the palace, so no wonder she was smiling so heartily just now. After the mother and daughter left the Prime Minister's mansion, Mrs. Wei had no intention of setting up a matchmaking relationship for her daughter. Mrs. Yang was in a depressed mood and didn't want to talk as she got into the carriage. Zhang Jiaojiao felt a war between heaven and man in her heart, and Wei Mingzhou's appearance kept popping up in her mind. Zhang Jiaojiao prefers Du Shizheng, a gentle and humble gentleman, to the informal warrior Du Shizheng. Jiao stop thinking about it. Wei Mingzhou is a bastard. It is said that a good daughter is like a mother. Looking at her daughter's shy expression, Yang knew that her daughter was attracted by the skin of Mr. Wei San. Zhang Jiaojiao was stunned when her thoughts were exposed. Mom, why not? It is better to be the wife of the concubine of the Wei family than to be the wife of the legitimate son of those petty officials. How could Yang not understand such a simple truth? She lowered her lips in displeasure. Don't you know, Jiao, that Mr. Wei San is Aunt Chen's son? You have also seen Aunt Chen's temper. She is not easy to deal with. Today she didn't care that an aunt came out to receive her, but Aunt Chen found fault with her everywhere. Mom, my daughter only thinks that the third young master has good looks and is a good man who can be trusted for life. Aunt Chen is an aunt after all. There are also the old lady and the eldest lady who are the masters of the house. Aunt Chen is not easy to get along with, and my daughter is not easy to bully. Yang was moved by her daughter's words. As far as she knew, young Master Wei was not married yet. When Mom goes back, she will send Mrs. Chu to ask matchmaker Li from Zhixi Lane to find out what Mrs. Wei is thinking. She didn't even mention Mr. Wei today, and she doesn't know anything about it. Mom is so kind. Zhang Jiaojiao hugged Yang's arm affectionately. Hey! Jiao, don't be too happy too early. Madame Wei didn't show any particular enthusiasm when she saw you today. Who knows whose girl she is attracted to? Seeing her daughter's joy, Yang felt heavy. There are only so many aristocratic families in the capital, although I often praise my daughter for how good she is. If her daughter was really beautiful, she wouldn't be so anxious. Mom, you were in a hurry and didn't understand. My daughter heard that Master Wei will go to Qinglian Temple tomorrow to pray for the queen. Zhang Jiaojiao raised her head, which was resting on Yang's arm, with no trace of her daughter's reserve on her face. My daughter will also go to Qinglian Temple tomorrow to find the old woman. It's better to test the third young master's mind directly. Yang frowned and shook his head slightly. No. Your father will be angry if he finds out and says I indulge you too much. Whether it's a trial or a chance encounter, in short, it's easy for people to criticize when men and women meet in private. Mom, if your daughter is sensible, tell her father that the Jiao festival is here and she should go to the temple to pray for blessings. If you're still worried, can you let Mrs. Ju and Kayan go with you? Yang waited up and gritted his teeth. Oh. Go ahead, do you know how to test it? Don't let others think you are too eager. Even if it succeeds, the other party will look down on you in the future. Mrs. Yang is also very helpless. Her daughter has been delaying to enter the palace. Looking around, there are fewer and fewer candidates matching her daughter's age. If the delay continues, a good legitimate daughter will have no choice but to marry low. Young Master Wei happened to be the same age as her daughter, so she could only let her daughter have a try. That night, Zhang Jiaojiao was filled with love and couldn't sleep, thinking over and over how to attract Wei Ming's favor tomorrow. When she went to the Prime Minister's mansion today, Wei Mingzhou looked at her with nothing strange in his eyes. Could it be that she was dressed too modestly today? Zhang Jiaojiao simply got up and looked for clothes in the closet. Cai Yan, who was in the outer room, heard the noise in the room, lifted the door curtain and asked, "Miss, what are you looking for?" "I'll do it for you." "Cai Yan, do you think I look good in today's clothes?" Cai Yan answered without thinking, "Miss, you look good in anything. Today's dress is dignified and gentle, very decent." Zhang Jiaojiao shook her head. "No, Mr. Wei-san didn't even look at me when he passed by me. It must be that my skirt is not good enough." Zhang Jiaojiao lowered her head slightly, and her chest without the belly band was like two parallel mountains. Seeing that the lady was staring at the pajamas on her chest and frowning, Cai Yan asked, "Miss, do you think the belly band I made is too tight?" Zhang Jiaojiao smiled, "No wonder I feel so tight today. It turns out that it's the belly band's problem." Zhang Jiaojiao quickly found a lotus-colored low-cut brocade lining in the closet, and matched it with a light yellow gauze on the outside, and then took out the belly band that she thought was too loose before. "How about this outfit, isn't it eye-catching enough?" "Miss, is it too eye-catching?" Cai Yan glanced at Zhang Jiaojiao's chest. Zhang Jiaojiao straightened her chest. "It's right to be eye-catching. Usually, I tighten my chest tightly, which makes me uncomfortable and unesthetic." How could she hide the part she was proud of? Look at the girls in front of the brothel, which one is not half covered by wuxian? Men. Aren't they all like that? Even if you look at wuxian through the clouds, you'll be like a lost soul. Cai Yan. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 97. Thinking that her future might be tied to the lady, Kayan swallowed back her words of advice to Zhang Jiaojiao. She and Mrs. Ju also met Mr. Wei-san outside the hospital. The man was always warm even if he didn't smile. He was a man who made girls feel happy when they saw him. The noble son of a noble family was different. When he passed in front of her, the air was filled with the faint fragrance of roses. Kayan suddenly realized and quickly turned around and walked out. "Miss, do you still remember that box of rose incense?" Just use jasmine. Kaiyan stopped and reminded, when young Master Wei passed by the slave, I smelled the faint fragrance of roses. Zhang Jiao yawned, I'm sleepy, just use roses as incense. I have to keep my spirits up tonight so that I can be energetic enough to meet the person I love by chance tomorrow. Kaiyan found rose incense and lit it, and it wasn't until the middle of the night that she got the clothes she wanted to wear. In the palace. The lights in the Jiaofang palace were brightly lit, and the maids and eunuchs were running out again and again. The imperial doctors came in batch after batch. Mrs. Wei sat in front of the couch and held the queen's hand tightly. Queen, please hold on. The entire Wei family is counting on you. The queen on the couch looked haggard, and even the candlelight in the palace could not reflect the color of her cheeks. Mom, please call me Ziu. This queen has worked really hard and my daughter is tired, the queen gasped after finishing speaking. This sentence seemed to have taken a lot of energy from her. The maid behind Mrs. Wei raised her eyes and glanced outside, holding back tears and not uttering a word. My Yuer, you will get better. As long as you get better, don't worry about the royal heirs. At worst, you can keep one of the children in the harem by your side. Speaking of the heir, the queen's eyelashes trembled slightly, and a string of tears rolled down the ends of her eyes. From crown princess to queen, she only gave birth to a little princess in more than 10 years. In order to prevent other women from giving birth to the emperor's son before her, she tried all means, but still failed to stop the 2 women in the harem from giving birth to the emperor's son. She had been suffering from nausea and vomiting for the past few days, and her menstruation had been on and off. Thinking that her body had adjusted well and she was pregnant, she quickly asked the imperial doctor to check her pulse. The imperial doctor said that her body was depleted, her energy and blood were insufficient, and she would never be able to get pregnant in this life. As a result, he was furious and a mouthful of blood spurted out. The illness came like a mountain, and she had only been on the bed for 2 days when she felt exhausted. Especially at night, I would have nightmares every time I closed my eyes, always seeing black and white figures holding chains to lock themselves up. Wei Ziyu closed her slightly sunken eyes slightly, and said with anger, Mom, if I can't hold on, I will choose another sister from the Wei clan to enter the palace. Sister Min cannot be raised by others. Mrs. Wei finally couldn't hold back her tears. Yuer, don't say stupid things, you will get better. The imperial doctor also said just now that you are too worried, depressed in your chest, and weak. There are no tonics in the palace. You will definitely get better. The maids and nuns on the side lowered their heads. In the past few days, the imperial doctors have been coming to Jiaofang Hall to check the queen's pulse. The imperial doctor said that the queen's body was like a leaky wall, and the tonic she had taken disappeared without a trace. Seeing that the queen seemed to be asleep, Mrs. Wei gently put down her daughter's hand. Wipe away tears and walk out of the bedroom. She called a young eunuch and asked, What is the emperor doing? Why did he only come to see you and then leave today? Madam, how dare I ask about the emperor's whereabouts? That is a capital offense. The little eunuch trembled in fear. The little eunuch secretly murmured in his heart that if the queen's family hadn't come today, the emperor might not have even looked at it. There are so many beauties in the harem, can the emperor see them? Even if the young eunuch knew that the emperor was having fun in the palace of newly promoted beauties at this time, he would not dare to say anything. Mrs. Ruai got angry and rushed over, disturbing the emperor's elegance. In the end, it was found out that she leaked the emperor's whereabouts. Do you want to kill yourself? After Mrs. Wei asked, she came back to her senses. He was an emperor with a distinguished status, not the son-in-law of an ordinary family. No matter how much honor he gave to the Wei family, he would not be allowed to act arrogantly in the palace. With its high walls, red walls, and green tiles, the magnificent palace still makes people yearn for it. The next day, Mrs. Wei returned to the Prime Minister's mansion. As soon as she entered the gate, Mrs. Wei sent her to ask questions. What's wrong with the queen? Why are you hiding it from me? Mrs. Wei asked sharply. Mom, don't worry, Yor hasn't been pregnant for many years, her heart is knotted in her chest, she vomited blood and her body is weak. A flash of light flashed in Mrs. Wei's eyes. Isn't she weak? I reminded you many years ago and asked you to discuss with Yor before sending a daughter from the Wei family into the palace. You and Yor disagreed to death. What about now? If you haven't given birth to a dragon son, can you still sit in the back seat? Mrs. Wei said, giving Mrs. Wei a fierce look. Mrs. Wei was a wealthy person. Many years ago, when the queen returned to her home, she asked the doctor to check the queen's pulse. The doctor in the palace told Mrs. Wei in private that the queen was weak in energy and blood, and it was impossible for her menstrual period to come on time, not to mention that the emperor only occasionally stayed in Jiaofang Hall. It would be extremely difficult for the queen to become pregnant. The queen, mother, and daughter were worried that their concubine would gain favor by giving birth to a dragon son in the palace, so they refused to listen to Mrs. Wei's suggestion. The queen is currently ill. A group of beautiful girls have just been selected to enter the palace this year. There is no point in mentioning this now. Yor is in short supply. The top priority is that we should send more tonics to the palace. Mrs. Wei had her own plans. Her daughter was just weak and would be fine after a rest. Her husband was a high-ranking official, and the emperor had to rely on the Wei family. Her legitimate sons were all working for the court. She should be satisfied. If she sent someone to the palace now, whether the emperor would favor her was one thing. The most important thing was that she didn't want others to look down on her once they were favored. How could Mrs. Wei not see through the thoughts of her eldest daughter-in-law? She waved her hand helplessly. Go, let you go. I am an old woman who is already covered in dirt up to my neck. I can manage you for a while, but I can't manage you for a lifetime. On the other side, Wei Mingzhou took 1,000 taels of silver notes from his mistress and left the house happily with his servant. The carriage left the city, and the servant asked, Master, are we really going to Qinglian Temple? Wei Mingzhou leaned lazily on the small couch in the carriage, his eyes half closed. Why not? Grandmother took the silver, and your master should at least bring her a talisman back. The servant smiled flatteringly. Master must have gone to see if the young lady of the Du family also went to pray for blessings. Wei Mingzhou glanced at the servant sitting at the door of the carriage. Don't talk nonsense, it's not even a matter of time. If you see the young lady of the Du family later, you must be respectful. The servant. You still said that the servant was talking nonsense, but it was obvious that you were concerned. There were many people going to Qinglian Temple. Just behind Wei Mingzhou's carriage, an inconspicuous carriage followed closely. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 98. Kayan opened the curtain and looked at the BMW car outside. She glanced at the carriage in front and lowered the curtain. Miss, you are so smart. There are so many people going to the temple today. If we don't wait outside the Prime Minister's mansion, we may not even be able to find the third young master today. That's right, if you don't even look at who your young lady is, she will be unable to fly today. Zhang Jiaojiao specially put on a beauty makeup today. She used vermilion paste to draw a flower pattern between her eyebrows. The carefully painted makeup is indeed different. She herself felt extremely beautiful. Kayan, please be smart in a moment. Whether we can enter the Prime Minister's mansion or not, success or failure depends on this. Zhang Jiaojiao's words made Kayan very excited. The young lady meant that she was going to take her to the Prime Minister's mansion to be a dowry maid. Then wouldn't she serve the young lady's uncle when it is inconvenient for the young lady? After giving birth to a son and a half-daughter, she will be treated as an aunt as a matter of course. Thinking of being able to serve that gentle and jade-like young master, Kaiyan blushed, and her heart skipped a beat. The carriage stopped, and Kaiyan hurriedly took off the curtain hat from the carriage wall. "Miss, put it on quickly, Miss is right, seeing flowers in the mist is more attractive." In the carriage ahead, Wei Mingzhou picked up the folding fan and shook it violently. There is an ice basin in the carriage, and the wind from the fan is very cool. He frowned slightly as he watched the sun rise outside. "Master, I heard that there is a path halfway up the mountain to the main hall on the top of the mountain. The path is on the northwest side and cannot be exposed to the sun in the morning." Wei Mingzhou gritted his teeth and jumped out of the carriage. "Come on, let's go back quickly. If we have time, we can go to Yakuai Tower to listen to music when we get back." Wei Mingzhou made up his mind not to go back too early today. If he went back too early, his grandmother would think his prayer was too perfunctory. The coachman was waiting at the bottom of the mountain. Wei Mingzhou didn't care about meeting Du Yutong by chance, so he walked up the mountain road under the shade of a tree. Zhang Jiaojiao and Kaiyan were able to keep up with Wei Mingzhou at first. After a while, the figures in front of them quickly disappeared into the flow of people going up the mountain. Zhang Jiaojiao was out of breath from walking. She looked forward and saw that there was still more than half the distance. "Kaiyan, my feet hurt and I really can't walk." Zhang Jiaojiao put one hand on her hips and shook the fan in the other. The veil was cut by Kaiyan, and the veil that barely covered her neck was fanned up. Her breasts were in full bloom, and people passing by frequently cast strange glances at her. When the people passing by walked away, Kaiyan suggested, "Miss, you see there are a lot of people offering incense today. Not to mention whether we can find young Master Wei again. Even if we meet him, it will be inconvenient to see so many people strike up a conversation." Zhang Jiaojiao's spirits were lifted. "You mean we wait here?" "Slave, look, there is a fork in the road ahead. Where should we wait?" "Good idea. There are so many people coming and going here, it's really not a good idea." Thinking that she could see Wei Mingzhou without having to worry about climbing to the top of the mountain, Zhang Jiaojiao suddenly had a smile on her face again. Arriving at the fork halfway up the mountain, Zhang Jiaojiao found a stone and sat down to rest. Due to the drought, the bushes in the woods were not as lush as in previous years, and someone could clearly see someone passing by several feet away. At this time, Wei Mingzhou had already reached the path on the side of the fork in the road. How can a pampered young man be compared with a young man who runs around all day long? Wei Mingzhou was walking so hard that his forehead was sweating, and the boy acted like nothing was wrong. Wei Mingzhou saw a big stone on the side of the road and sat down. "I can't do it anymore. Let's take a rest before leaving." The young man saw that the young master's fair cheeks were flushed, and he was gasping for air while sitting. He bravely asked, "Master, are you just going to find a talisman, or are you going to see Master Huiwen in person? Your young master doesn't have bad luck, so why are you looking for that bald donkey? It's just a talisman to ward off evil spirits. Grandma will feel at ease after seeing it." His aunt was in charge of the middle-class minister, and his monthly pocket money was fixed. However, the sinecure he received was very idle, and his salary was not enough for him to spend. His aunt couldn't control the money at home, and he didn't dare to reach out to his father. If he did, he would be scolded. Only Grandma can coax someone to come out with 3 melons and 2 dates. "I have to take a talisman back today no matter what. Master, I have an idea. I wonder if the master thinks it is suitable. This guy has been following Wei Mingzhou for many years, and he always has bad ideas." Before the boy could finish speaking, he put away the folding fan and waved his hand quickly. "No, I can't draw the talisman drawn by the bald donkey. Grandma is not easy to fool. She just took the yellow paper used to draw the talisman and smelled it. You'll know if it's true or false." "Master, that's not what I meant. Master can give me some sesame oil money and ask me to go up the mountain to get the talisman. There's no sun here, so master can just sit here and rest. Good idea, take it, it's only 10 taels. What you have left is up to you. Wei Mingzhou took out a piece of silver and threw it over. The young man caught it quickly, laughing so hard that his mouth split to the base of his ears. Don't worry, young master, it doesn't matter if you don't have any left. The young master usually rewards the little ones enough. Go back quickly, I'm already hungry. Hey. Master, wait, I will be back on time within 2/4 of an hour. The boy took the silver ingot and turned around, quickly disappearing on the mountain road. At the fork in the road, Kayan kept staring at the stone road going down the mountain. After a 1/4 of an hour, fewer and fewer people went up the mountain. After a while, no one came down the mountain. Kayan said worriedly, Mr. Wei won't spend the night on the mountain, right? No, there are very few pilgrims staying overnight in Qinglian Temple. Sure enough, in less than a 1/4 of an hour, the servant returned and raised his hand. Master, I got it. I only gave you 5 taels of incense money. Occasionally, a gust of wind blew through the mountains, and Wei Mingzhou also breathed a sigh of relief. He waved his hand generously. Hurry up and put it away. The rest is your reward. Hey. Thank you, master. The servant was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth and hurriedly put the talisman away. In order to give only 5 taels of incense money, the servant went to the place where incense and candles were sold to exchange for small silver. In fact, he only gave 2 taels of incense money. At the fork in the road, Kayan's neck was sore from looking up, and Zhang Jiaojiao was waving around Fan calmly. Suddenly, footsteps sounded not far away, and Kayan and Zhang Jiaojiao looked towards the path at the same time. It's him. Zhang Jiaojiao quickly got up and adjusted her wrinkled skirt. Seeing Wei Mingzhou getting closer and closer to her, Zhang Jiaojiao's heart was beating wildly. She had thought of some words to pick up girls last night, but now she had completely forgotten them. She heard the footsteps gradually becoming clearer, and her mind went blank. Kayan saw that the third Master Wei was almost approaching the young lady, who was still nervously holding her round fan in a daze. The mountain road was wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side. Wei Mingzhou saw a woman standing in the middle of the road and politely bowed. Please make way, young lady. Instantly, Kayan pretended to slip and raised her hand to push Zhang Jiaojiao. Ah! Young lady, be careful. Zhang Jiaojiao cried out, and the round fan in her hand flew out of her hand, and her body fell backwards. Wei Mingzhou instinctively stretched out his hand and hugged her tightly. As luck would have it, Zhang Jiaojiao had her back to Wei Mingzhou, and a big hand pressed right on a pair of soft breasts. After helping the person in his arms up, Wei Mingzhou lowered his eyes and bowed his hands apologetically. I'm sorry, young lady. I was in a hurry and I didn't mean to offend you. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 100. Zhang Jiaojiao was stunned for a moment, and just as she was hesitating what to say, the housekeeper came out. Miss, please come inside. Zhang Shiyu's eyes were indifferent and she didn't even look at Zhang Jiaojiao. She walked into the Shangshu mansion and walked straight towards the ancestral hall. Qiuju quickly followed. She lowered her voice and said, Miss, the carriage that followed the second lady's carriage just now belongs to the Prime Minister's mansion. Let's talk about this later. Today we are here to get our mother's memorial tablet. Zhang Shiyu kept walking. Seeing this, the housekeeper quickly ordered the boy to inform his master. Zhang Jiaojiao was afraid that her father would see her dressed up in a frivolous manner, so she trotted all the way to her courtyard after entering the house. At this time, Zhang Zhengming had finished lunch and was about to take a nap when the boy came to report that the eldest lady was back. Ms. Yang urged, Husband, go quickly. Don't be angry. If you have anything to say, say it properly. Yu is a sensible child and she will understand your good intentions. Zhang Zhengming took the cold water handkerchief handed over by Yang and dabbed it on his face, feeling more energetic. He put the handkerchief back into Yang's hand and said to Yang, "Come with me. That evil girl can make people angry with her words. If I can't control my emotions, you can smooth things over. Don't worry, husband, I understand. As long as the eldest lady agrees to the Wu family's marriage, everything will be easy." Yang said and winked at Mrs. Chu behind her. Mrs. Chu understood, lowered her head and retreated. Mrs. Chu was originally going to Qinglian Temple today, but Zhang Jiaojiao didn't come over to inform her at all, and left the house with Kaiyan early in the morning. Yang was worried that Zhang Jiaojiao would do something outrageous in a hurry, and she was restless all morning. She had to know as soon as possible whether her daughter was destined to the third son of Wei. If she could get into the Wei family, it would be better if Zhang Zhengming and Zhang Shuya fell out, lest she have to pay for her dowry in vain. When Zhang Shuya came back, the entire Shangshu mansion felt like it was facing a formidable enemy. While the housekeeper followed Smiley to the ancestral hall, he looked back from time to time to see if the master was here. Walking into the ancestral hall, the past experiences are still vivid in my mind, as if they were yesterday. The tablet of Mother Su is on the side below the ancestors of the Zhang family. The family rituals are still in their original positions, and there seems to be a residual smell of blood in the air. Zhang Shuyu said silently in her heart, "Mrs. Su, I have come to pick you up on behalf of your daughter and leave this dirty place." Zhang Shuyu kowtowed to Su's spiritual place and reached out to get it. The housekeeper hurriedly stepped forward and advised, "No, young lady, this matter is of great importance. Let's discuss it carefully when the master comes, right?" Qiuju scolded, "Madam is my young lady's mother, why should I discuss it with someone who has nothing to do with me? Don't forget that my young lady has nothing to do with the Zhang family." Without saying a word, Gao Mu stretched out his hand to pick up the butler's back collar, gently lifted him up, and slid him out of the ancestral hall. In Gao Mu's hands, the housekeeper was like a chicken caught by an eagle. His hands and feet were dancing in the air, and he shouted, "Miss, think about it carefully, these slaves are all for your own good." Ah! Ouch! Gao Mu let go of his hand, and the butler threw a dog to eat shit. "What are you doing?" Zhang Zhengming glared at Gao Mu and strode into the ancestral hall. Seeing that Zhang Zhengming was a little angry, Yang smiled and said, Why don't you come and sit in mother's room when you come back?" Mrs. Chu hasn't replied yet, so she still has to cooperate with Zhang Zhengming to coax him. She is the best at pretending to be gentle and virtuous. Zhang Shuyu didn't bother to pay attention to Yang's false feelings. She wrapped the coffin in her hand and said without looking back, "Mr. Zhang is really forgetful. I told you in advance that I will come back to get my mother's coffin. No. I won't agree. Su is the wife of my Ming matchmaker. She was born as a member of my Zhang family and died as a ghost of my Zhang family. You can't do this. Daddy, please apologize to you. Dad was wrong. Dad shouldn't have asked the family to beat you after you were bullied, let alone send you to Zhuangzi." Zhang Zhenming's tone was so strong that it only took a moment for him to soften his pleas. Zhang Shuyu was not the original owner. She looked at Zhang Zhengming and said calmly, "Master Zhang, why are you doing this? What my mother left behind is just a spiritual place. Her soul has left the Zhang family long ago." She glanced at Yang, "Don't you have a married woman? It's more appropriate to leave the ghost job to her, don't you think so, madam?" Yang was so angry that a mouthful of blood surged in her chest, and she had to suppress it with a smile. Zhang Shuyu held the wrapped coffin in her arms and walked out the door. Zhang Zhengming quickly blocked her way, Dad, please come back. Dad has arranged a good marriage for you to compensate for the sins you have suffered over the years." Zhang Shuyu paused slightly. It turned out that he was waiting for her here. No wonder he begged her to go back home again and again. She wanted to hear what kind of family this cheap father had chosen for her. There was a hint of sarcasm in the corner of Zhang Shiyu's mouth. Oh. So that's it? May I ask Mr. Zhang, what kind of family is this person? When Yang heard this, she thought Zhang Shiyu had changed her mind. Your father is reluctant to marry you off. He is the son of Tai Weiwu's family. He serves in the Ministry of War. He is a young talent with both civil and military skills. Tisk, 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 it's really a good marriage. Why did it fall on a person who was expelled from the family tree? Zhang Shiyu looked at Qiuju, her tone seemed to be talking about someone else. Miss, I seem to have heard that Miss Zhang too is also engaged to the son of the Wu family. Could it be that you are engaged to the second son of the Wu family, and Miss Zhang too is engaged to the illegitimate son of the Wu family? Qiuju asked knowingly. Yang's forehead jumped when she heard this, but she had to smile and not get angry. Yang quickly denied, the rumors outside are wrong. Qiao is not engaged. The person who was engaged from the beginning to the end was you were. Hey. That's not right. When I heard about this, Miss hadn't returned to the capital. Could it be that Master Zhang has the ability to predict the future and knows that my Miss is going to return to the capital? Zhang Zhengming, don't dwell on the past anymore. Just tell me if this marriage is okay. Zhang Zhengming was sure that Zhang Shiyu would agree. Yang couldn't get angry even if she bit her teeth. She suppressed her emotions and looked at Zhang Shiyu expectantly. In what capacity did Lord Zhang arrange a marriage for me? What qualifications do you have to help me arrange a marriage? After two questions in a row, Zhang Zhenming's face froze, and he opened his mouth but didn't say a word. You can't hurt your father's heart like this. He has admitted his fault to you. Pa. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, is that right? Zhang Shiyu raised her hand and slapped Yang hard, then apologized with a sincere face. You. Yang quickly raised her hand to cover her burning cheek, looking at Zhang Shiyu with a cold look, wishing to eat her alive. Yang then looked at Zhang Zhengming with a face full of grievance. Husband, look at you. Enough. Yang had never been treated so coldly by Zhang Zhengming before, and tears rolled down. She used to pretend to be wronged, but this time she was really wronged. Master Zhang, take care of yourself. Please don't cheat outside in my father's name. If I find out, don't blame me for reporting to the government. Leaving behind a word, he strode out. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 101. Seeing Zhang Shiyu's tall back fading away, Zhang Zhengming felt a sense of panic in his heart. Su's voice and smile during his lifetime suddenly flooded into his mind. The daughter was babbling and called daddy inarticulately. When my daughter was a toddler, she stretched out her little hands and rushed towards her, shouting, "Daddy, give me a hug." When Su passed away, the scene where her daughter fainted from crying seemed like yesterday. The retreating figure becomes blurry. Outside the door, Mrs. Chu came in a hurry. Yang knew from the look in Mrs. Chu's eyes that her daughter was having trouble with the young master of the Wei family. Seeing that Zhang Zhengming was in despair, Yang changed his topic sharply. "Husband, it's okay not to want such a wicked girl, we still have a sweet son." "Shut up." With an angry rebuke, Yang was shocked all over. He took a step forward and stood in front of Zhang Zhengming, leaning towards his face with the fingerprints on it. He asked hoarsely, "You still tell me to shut up? Look at the good things your evil daughter has done. She dared to attack me in front of you, and you are still cruel to me. It's a hard life to be a concubine, and it's hard to be a stepmother." After Yang finished yelling, he continued to cover his face and cry bitterly. Those red fingerprints were very clear, and Yang's cheeks were swollen. Jiang Zhengming staggered and leaned against the doorframe of the ancestral hall, feeling as if all his energy had been drained from his whole body. He said feebly, that's all, just pretend that there has never been her mother and daughter in this family. I'll go to Lieutenant Wu and explain it myself. Yang was overjoyed and quickly stopped crying. Are you serious about what your husband said? What can be done now? Jiang Zhengming, just pretend that I have never given birth to her. Yang ignored the pain on her face and held Jiang Zhengming's hand. Husband, don't be angry. Our dear daughter is filial and well behaved. Yu Lao will definitely find a good match for her. Just wait and see. The tense atmosphere calmed down, and Mrs. Chu quickly bowed and said, Madam's face is swollen. I'm going to get some ice and apply it on Madam. The butler rubbed his red and swollen knees, and hurriedly stepped forward and said, Master, please calm down, I will go see the young lady off. Seeing the housekeeper limping away, Jiang Zhengming said, there is no eldest lady in the Jiang family anymore. The eldest lady in the Jiang family has died violently long ago. She just has the same name and a similar surname. Yang quickly gave a hush order to the servants of the Shangshu mansion, and continued to claim that Miss Jiang had died suddenly. She was not allowed to reveal a word to the public, otherwise she would be beaten to death with sticks. Jiang Shuyu left the Shangshu's mansion holding the coffin and got into the carriage. Qiuju smiled happily. Miss, that slap you just gave me really relieved my anger. I have long wanted to slap that woman with a Buddha face and a snake heart. It would be great if the slave could peel off her skin. I really want to peel off her hypocritical face and see what kind of ugly face is underneath. What do you think? Are you afraid that your hands will be dirty? Go home and wash your hands. Jiang Shuya glanced at Yang's right hand with disgust. Back at the house, Qiuju brought some soap, and Jiang Shuya washed her hands vigorously several times. Miss, are we completely separated from Shangshu's mansion? Will Madam's spiritual tablet be returned to the Su family or enshrined in the mansion? Qiuju asked while helping the young lady change her clothes. Jiang Shuya was silent for a moment, and decided not to mess with the Su family if she could. She was a person with modern thinking. Some relatives naturally felt that you owed them something. No one had come to her for so many years, and they would break it off if they could. My mother is not a kind person. I want to send her spiritual tablet to Qinglian Temple for worship, and then ask the monks to perform a ritual ceremony. If I don't go back to Shangshu Mansion, with Jiang Zhenming's temper, he will definitely insist that I am dead. We will try our best to deny our relationship with Jiang Zhengming in the future. What the young lady is saying is that there are more people with the surname Jiang. The young lady is more beautiful now than before. We don't admit it. Others only think that the young lady bears a slight resemblance to Miss Jiang. The next day, Jiang Shuyu and Sushui personally sent Su's spiritual tablet to Qinglian Temple, along with 2 prescriptions. I didn't expect that the donor would come up with the prescription so quickly. Amitabha Master Huiwen held the prescription for the epidemic in both hands, as if holding a scripture with piety. There is still a prescription being developed, and now we are just one step away from it. Jiang Shuya clasped her hands together and said, I heard that there is a place for enshrining spiritual tablets in the temple. The little girl's mother died young, so I asked the master to arrange for someone to perform a ritual for the little girl's mother and then enshrine her in the temple. Amitabha, my Buddha is merciful, and the benefactor's filial piety is commendable. This poor monk will do it now. Master Huiwen led Jiang Shuyu and his party to a hall in the back mountain. After placing the coffin, he knelt down and paid homage to Sui Sui and raised his head and asked Jiang Shuyu, Mother, does Grandma know that Sui Sui is kowtowing to her? Jiang Shuyu. Qiuju quickly said, Sui Sui is so cute, of course the old lady knows. Can Grandma hear what I'm saying? Of course, Master Sui Sui can say whatever he wants to the old lady. Qiuju knelt beside Sui Sui and said seriously. She imitates her mother every year, clasping her hands together and mumbling something. The general idea is to reassure grandma that he will take good care of his mother and earn a lot of money to spend on her. Master Huiwen said that it would take 3 days to do the sermon, and Zhang Xiu still had a medical clinic that she needed to take care of. She left a sum of money for sesame oil that could be used for several years and went down the mountain. On the way back, Qiuju asked Sushui, "Young master, just now you said you wanted to earn a lot of money. Can you tell Aunt Qiuju how you earn it?" These days, Nangang Ziyu has been going out early and coming back late with Sushui, and the young lady is too busy to take care of them. Qiuju has wanted to ask for a long time. Sushui's phoenix eyes rolled around, and she pursed her lips and shook her head. "I can't say it. Uncle Nangang and I have made a promise, so we have to keep it secret." Zhang Xiu thought of Nangang Ziyu's traditional craftsmanship, and her heart shuddered. "Did he take you to rob a house?" Sushui looked confused, raised her head and asked in a baby voice, "Mom, what is robbing a house? Is it betting on cockfighting?" Seeing that her mother didn't explain, Sushui asked, "Master, do you know what cockfighting is?" "Yes. It's two chickens fighting, and the spectators can bet. If they bet right, they win." Sushui paused and said, "Uncle Nangang said that this is a serious business." Zhang Xiu and Qiuju looked at each other, and they seemed to know the answer. Zhang Xiu raised her hand and buried her face in her palm. "Oh my God. It turns out that guy took her son to gamble on cockfighting." Zhang Xiu pretended to know nothing. She coughed and said, Sui, Uncle Nangang is very busy these days. Can mother send you to the school?" "Mother, the teacher in the school teaches too boring things. Uncle Nangang and brother Jingxiu in the study have agreed that I will go to the private school of brother Jingxiu's family, and brother Jingxiu will be my teacher." "Did Zhen Jingxiu agree?" Zhang Xiu's expression eased a lot. Nangang Ziyu finally did something. "I was also thinking about how to send Sui to Zhen's private school. I didn't expect that Nangang Ziyu and I had the same idea." "Mother, guess what conditions brother Jingxiu put forward?" Zhang Xiu still put forward conditions. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 102. The true family is the King Liu family. He will definitely test whether you are qualified to enter his private school. What other conditions can he impose? Sushui shook his head. Yes, brother Jingxiu said, Shu Xiu doesn't have to hand it over, but if he writes new poems, he has to hang them in the study for everyone to circulate. Mother, Uncle Nangang has agreed with brother Jingxiu that he will send me to a private school in a few days. Speaking of being able to go to private school, Sushui's face was filled with a smile of anticipation. It is said that Zhang Zhengming went to the Wu family to pay homage to Mrs. Wu, preparing generous gifts. After Mrs. Wu heard Zhang Zhenming's explanation, she asked Yan's mother to take back her third grandson's posthumous invitation. He waved his hand openly. Since Miss Zhang is no longer here, it means that my old lady has admitted her mistake, and this marriage will not be possible. Seeing that Mrs. Wu didn't mean to blame her at all, Zhang Zhenming breathed a sigh of relief. After a while of polite greetings, Zhang Zhenming stood up to leave, and Mrs. Wu asked the housekeeper to see the guests off. She turned back to Yan's mother who was waiting beside her and said, "What do you think is going on in the Zhang family? A good daughter insists on speaking out to death, and insists on praising that concubine who has no place on the stage." Yan's mother took the tea with both hands. "Old madam, do you still remember Miss Zhang saying that she has bad luck? My aunt has become a stepmother, and my legitimate daughter has been kicked out. Isn't it bad luck? I don't know if Mr. Zhang is too confused, or if the stepmother is too powerful." Mrs. Wu took the tea and took a sip. You sent someone to inquire about Miss Zhang. I have made a mistake once in my life. This time I was absolutely right. That girl is a person who can run a family and run affairs, whether she is a girl from Shangshu Mansion or not. My Wu family wants to marry her. Mrs. Wu's brain ached when she mentioned her incompetent eldest daughter-in-law. Others were dejected when they were grounded, but she was playing the piano and playing strings in the courtyard without any intention of reflecting on her mistake. From Mrs. Wu's point of view, she seemed happy to have some free time. Old madam, why don't you let eldest madam go out with old slave to find out the news about Miss Zhang? This can be regarded as making up for the mistake. Okay, let's do it this way. Let her be more considerate when she sees others. If she messes up again, I will definitely punish her again. Hey. The old lady is kind. The eldest lady will definitely handle things beautifully this time. The old lady will just wait for the good news. Yan's mother smiled warmly and quickly stepped back to report the news to the eldest lady. The eldest lady is usually kind to others, and she is also happy to give her a few kind words in front of the old lady. What? Let me find someone. Where can I find someone? Isn't my ancestor sincerely trying to make things difficult for me? The eldest lady was not happy to hear that the confinement was lifted. Hey. My wife, if you have nothing to do, take your slave for a walk on the street. The old lady doesn't stipulate that you can find the person in a day or two, don't you think so? Not to mention the old lady having a headache. Yan's mother also had a headache seeing the eldest lady's stubborn look. The eldest lady put her hands on the lotus pods and looked out the window at the scorching Sunday. She said with a depressed look, "It's such a hot day, so it's better to stay indoors." Yan's mother. She finally understood what the old lady meant when she always scolded the eldest lady for being unable to hold up the wall with mud. It's not that I can't hold onto the wall, but the eldest wife doesn't want to climb the wall at all. The personal maid on the side bowed and said to Mother Yan, "Thank you very much for the advice, Mother Yan. I will accompany Madam to find the person. Even if I can't find him, I will look for him every day. I also ask Mother Yan to say a kind word for Madam in front of our ancestors." After Yan's mother left, Mrs. Wu asked the maid, "What can you do?" "Madam, our ancestors didn't let us bask in the sun on the street. Let's find a tea house near the street, sit in a private room on the second floor, and look at the street from time to time. As for whether we can find Miss Zhang, then it just depends on fate. Is that okay? Then why should I worry? Go and clean up quickly. Let's go out and have tea." Seeing that the lady's mind was turning around, the servant hurriedly ordered the coachman to get ready to go out. Therefore, Mrs. Wu took her two maids out of the mansion to drink tea every day. She went out every morning and returned home at night, so she had to worry about morning and evening. During the day, it was not easy for even Wu Taiwei to see her. 2 days later, Nangang Ziyu came to Xingyu courtyard excitedly to find Zhang Shiyu. He pushed a stack of banknotes in front of Zhang Shiyu and said, "Take it quickly, this is Sui Sui's wife book. Sit down and tell me, yesterday Uncle Lin came out of the palace again. He was originally going to see you. I asked Lanner to go to your courtyard to look for you. He didn't even see you. You were busy usurping the throne. Gone." Nangang Ziyu was so amused by Zhang Shiyu's words that she laughed like a pig. He lifted his robe and sat down, with a bohemian look on his brows and eyes. "Sui Sui, you are so funny, look at where I look like an emperor. Sui Sui is still young, if he wants to be the Lao Shizi emperor, I will go to the palace and bring him the jade seal." Zhang Shiyu really believed what he said. This guy was so kind to Sui Sui. As long as Sui Sui liked something, he would always find a way to get it. Zhang Shiyu glared at him, "Do you think you can become emperor just by getting the jade seal? Tell me, what's the deal with this banknote? You two won it in a cockfight, right?" Nangang Ziyu stroked her forehead, Hey. You've discovered all this. This guy Sushui is so honest. I asked him not to tell you, but he still broke out. Nangong Ziyu looked annoyed. Qiuju looked at the thick stack of silver notes, her eyes shining. Mr. Nangong, can you win so much money from cockfighting? When will you go again? Zhang Shiyu. It's over, this girl is also obsessed with money. Nangong Ziyu said embarrassedly, the cockfighting arena is closed, I took over the place and turned it into a place for everyone to play dice. Ahem. Zhang Shiyu almost choked to death when a mouthful of tea got stuck in her throat. Did this guy think she didn't know where to play dice? He was still talking in a roundabout way. Qiuju hurriedly patted her on the back. Nangong Ziyu saw that Zhang Shiyu was getting anxious, and hurriedly explained, I'm doing a legitimate business, and I've reported it to the government. I'm honest and fair to everyone, and no one dares to cheat in my place. Zhang Shiyu took a breath, patted the stack of banknotes on the table and asked, then tell me what this has to do with Sui Sui. Sui Sui is my son, and I still have money to marry my daughter-in-law in the future. How can I let you pay for it? This banknote, it has to start with the cockfighting bet. Nangong Ziyu glanced at Zhang Shiyu's face with a guilty conscience, and saw that Zhang Shiyu didn't glare at him. He continued with courage, Sui Sui is very lucky. You know, I haven't done that for a long time, and I don't have much money in my pocket. One day, Sui Sui and I went to Juxian Pavilion to have a meal. When we came out, we passed by the cockfighting place. There were 3 layers of people inside and outside. It was very lively. Seeing Zhang Shiyu holding the tea and taking another sip, she seemed calm. Nangong Ziyu's courage suddenly grew a lot, and he said with a smile, guess what, there were too many people, I was afraid that Sui Sui would be stepped on, so I let him sit on my shoulders to watch the fun. As a result, Sui Sui urged me to bet on the white rooster to win. Qiuju was stunned and asked. What happened next? Did he win? After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 103. When Nangong Ziyu was happy, she crossed her legs and said, of course I won. I won that one alone, and everyone else crushed the red cock. His fox-eyed smile was extremely bright, Sui Sui is really a prodigy. He said that wherever he presses, he can win. I originally had a few hundred taels of silver notes in my pocket, but I won more than 2,000 taels that day. If the boss hadn't stopped playing, Sui Sui would have closed down on that day. There would be no need for Sui Sui and I to run around for 3 days. Nangong Ziyu said that it took 3 days to close a place, and she seemed to be quite regretful. Qiuju. I really have no chance to make a fortune. I thought the boss was quite wicked. He let 2 chickens beat him to pieces. He made a lot of money, so he used part of the winnings to take over the business and hired the shopkeeper and the waiter to take care of it. Nangong Ziyu took a look at the banknotes and said, the principal accounts for the majority every year. All the money is earned here. You have all my food and accommodation. I just get some pocket money. Nangong Ziyu would not say that she would never be short of money. If she ran out of money, she would just go to Huanhua Street and ask her senior brothers to get it. He just liked being near her. Zhang Shiyu pushed the banknote back and glared at Nangong Ziyu, I don't want this banknote, and I don't agree with you opening a casino. You haven't seen how desolate it is when other people lose their money and leave their wives and children. Nangong Ziyu argued, those people are all gamblers. If I don't open it, why don't they still gamble? It's just a different place to gamble. Zhang Shiyu. There seems to be nothing wrong with this. Anyway, I can't accept this banknote. I still have plenty of money. You have to worry about studying every year. Nangong Ziyu was not polite, stretched out her hand to take the banknote and said, I have an appointment with Jingxiu for dinner tonight, and I won't be home until very late. I won't take it with me. Nangong Ziyu had just left for a while when Sushui came in with an exquisite birdcage in her hand. Mother, Uncle Nangong said that this birdcage looks better than that bamboo cage for rabbits. Where is my little rabbit? I searched around the backyard and didn't see it. Mother, did you see it? Rabbit. Zhang Shuyu suddenly remembered that she had been too busy recently. When she entered the space at night, she went straight to the pharmacy and didn't even have time to take a look at the grass. The time in the space is different from that outside. Meat rabbits reproduce at an alarming rate. I don't know whether the pair of rabbits are male or female. If they are one male and one female, I don't know how many little rabbits came out after a lot of trouble. Qiuju was tying the knot on the side. When she heard about the rabbit, she put down the quick-formed knot in her hand. Before Zhang Shuya came to her senses, Qiuju stood up and took Sushui's hand and went outside. Slave, I remember that the lady said that the rabbit was put in the wasteland in the backyard. Let's go find it now. The bead curtain sounded, and Zhang Shuya hurriedly turned around and walked to the bedroom when she saw someone walking away. After entering the bedroom, with a thought, he flashed into the space. Looking up, she realized that the grass in the space was more than twice as big as before. There is a forest on the edge of the grassland. From a distance, I saw a group of white dumplings running around on the grass. Wow! The ground was full of fluffy rabbits, and the green grass seemed to be sprinkled with snowballs. There were more than 100 of them. Zhang Shuya quickly walked towards the side of the spiritual soil, where there were piles of corn, sweet potatoes, and potatoes. Fortunately, the rabbits on the other side of the grass hadn't discovered them yet. The corn in the spiritual land was almost ripe again, so she casually broke off a few tender corns and threw them aside. He turned around and walked towards the grass again, casually picked up 2 little rabbits from the ground and walked out of the space. Mayer and Lanner became Qiuju's right-hand men and were busy working in the front yard at this time. Zhang Shuya quickly walked out of the courtyard gate and walked towards the pond in the garden. Every other day, the gardener called a few boys to water the trees in the garden, and the grass in the open space grew lush and green. Throwing the rabbit into the grass, Zhang Shuya went to the pond and washed her hands before walking back. Back in the courtyard, as soon as I sat down, Sushui and Qiuju came back. Mom, are you sure you put the rabbit in the backyard? Sushui's little mouth was pouted, with a disappointed look on his face. After bringing the little rabbit home, he lost it before he could even touch it. How could he be happy? Qiuju also looked anxious. Miss, most of the weeds in the backyard have withered. Even the servants have searched all over and there is no sign of rabbits. Are they all starving to death? Zhang Shuya looked calm. She won't starve to death. There is no tender grass in the backyard. The grass in the big garden is growing vigorously. Maybe those 2 rabbits ran ahead. That's right, the wall is so high, you won't be able to escape from the house anyway. Sushui immediately smiled again and pulled Qiuju back to the garden. After a while, Sui and Qiuju came back holding a rabbit. Mom, do you think these 2 rabbits have gotten smaller? Sushui asked Qiuju to put the rabbits on the ground. The 2 rabbits squatted on the ground motionless. Zhang Shuya took a look and saw that the 2 rabbits were indeed smaller than the previous 2. Ouch! I was careless and grabbed it casually without paying attention to the size. Look, if it doesn't rain, even the rabbits will starve and lose weight. What a sin, Qiuju sighed with emotion. Zhang Shuya quickly agreed, yes, we are all hungry. Qiuju quickly go to the kitchen to get some sweet potatoes to supplement the 2+ orders. Mom, can you give me some steamed buns? Don't rabbits eat carrots? Can they also eat steamed buns? Qiuju was surprised. Yes, its previous owner said, you can feed it some steamed buns. There were no carrots in the season. Zhang Shuya knew that rabbits could eat corn residue, so she asked Qiuju to get some sweet potatoes and corn residue. Sushui put the rabbit in a birdcage and brought it under the tree in the yard. He muttered, "Don't poop everywhere. Mother likes cleanliness." After feeding the rabbit well, he felt that it was not appropriate to keep it in a small cage, so he and Kyoju let the rabbit roam freely in the garden. The next day, Nangang Ziyu personally sent Sushui to the Zhen family private school. It was Zhen Jingxiu who greeted Sushui. Nangang Ziyu had already told Zhen Jingxiu in private that he was not Sushui's father, but a good friend of Sushui's father. Zhen Jingxiu was a gentleman with grace, and he did not ask questions. In the Zhen family private school, there were children of different ages. Zhen Jingxiu naturally understood that Sushui had read far more books than children of the same age. After some consideration, he let Sushui go to class with the 10-year-old child, and after class, Sushui could play with any child of any age. After seeing Nangang Ziyu off, Zhen Jingxiu came to Sushui's desk and gently told him to ask him if he didn't understand. The other children saw that Zhen Jingxiu treated Sushui differently, and they were all curious about this classmate who was several years younger than them. "Teacher, I'll give you a new poem." Sushui no longer called Jingxiu brother, and took out a book from his school bag and handed it over. Zhen Jingxiu opened the book, and his eyes lit up, and the vigorous and elegant handwriting jumped into his eyes. Good poem. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 104. The book is Ode to the Willows, written by Zhang Shiyu. Didn't Zhen Jingxiu let Sushui have the poems and put them in the study? On the first day of school, Zhang Shiyu asked Sushui to take her there. Zhang Shiyu was not only obsessed with medical skills, she also liked prose and poetry. She could write hundreds of tang poems and song lyrics silently. Zhang Shiyu had breakfast later than Sui. She washed up, changed clothes, and walked to the front hall. She happened to meet Nangang Ziyu returning after seeing off Sui. Wearing a crescent-colored plain dress, her bun was held loosely with nothing but a lotus flower on it. Her light makeup and light lipstick made her skin as clear and beautiful as snow. Just one glance made people's hearts flutter, and Nangang Ziyu naturally looked away from her. "Are you going to the hospital?" "I'm just on my way, I'll take you there." Zhang Shiyu raised her eyes and looked at the door. "It's still early at this time. Qiuju and I are going to Zhen's house." "What are you going to do?" "They don't know the relationship between Sui and you. The housekeeper of Zhen Mansion said that Mrs. Zhen is in poor health. I have been thinking about going there to take a look. I have been busy with the medical clinic recently and I should go over and take a look today anyway. They don't know the relationship between Sui and me, so I have to make this trip even more." Nangang Ziyu was right when she thought about it. She accepted the Zhen family's love and couldn't ignore it just because the other party didn't know about it. You must know that it is easy to enter the Qingyun study room of Zhen family. If you want to study in the Zhen family private school, you don't have to be rich or noble. Only those who have the talent to study can enter after being selected by the Zhen family. After a while, Qiuju selected several medicinal materials from the warehouse that were suitable for the elderly to regulate their body. Nangang Ziyu went to the gambling house, while Zhang Shiyu and Qiuju went to Zhenfu. When the real housekeeper saw Zhang Shiyu, he felt that she looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen her before. "Girl, please come in. The old lady has been looking forward to the lady's visit for a long time." The housekeeper personally welcomed the master and the servant into the courtyard, and sent the slaves to the east courtyard to inform the old lady. Zhenfu is very big. When you walk into the first door with hanging flowers and look far into the distance, you can see simple and elegant pavilions hidden among the green bamboos. There are verandas on all sides, and several framed calligraphy and paintings are hung on the walls of the veranda. The courtyard is connected by corridors, rockery pavilions, and rocks dotted with exotic flowers and plants. The heritage of this famous scholarly residence is evident in every aspect: elegance, sophistication, and comfort. The old lady lives in the east courtyard behind the second hanging flower gate. Arriving at the east courtyard, the old lady was sipping tea under the purple wisteria in the courtyard. After entering the courtyard gate, Zhang Shuya greeted her with blessings. May you be safe and sound, old lady. Girl, don't be too polite, hurry up and take a seat. I heard Jing Xiu said you live here. Zhang Shuya raised her head, and Mrs. Zhen's words suddenly got stuck in her throat. You, or you Miss Zhang? Mrs. Zhen's reaction was expected by Zhang Shuya. She had been to the Zhen family's banquet and played a pairing game with the girls from the Zhen family. My little daughter Zhang Shuya came from Yan'an. Could it be that the old lady has seen someone similar to me? No, the beauty mark between your eyebrows and these eyebrows are very similar. Zhang Shuya denied it, and Zhang Shuya had a childish look on her face many years ago. Compared with the dignified and spiritual person in front of him, he seems to be a little different. When she heard that the man was from Yan'an, Madame Zhen also hesitated and secretly marveled in her heart that there were so many wonders in the world, that there were such similar people. Even the names are the same. Old madam, you don't know, right? Miss Zhang knows medical skills and also opened a women's medical clinic. The real housekeeper handed the medicinal materials Zhang Shuya brought to the maid serving the old lady with both hands. On the way to the East Hospital just now, Zhang Shuya told the housekeeper about her opening of a medical clinic. The old lady smiled kindly and said, "It turns out that the girl has medical skills. It's rare. It's really rare. The girl also sent so many tonics to my old lady. It's so thoughtful." Before Madame Zhen could give her orders, the maid quickly brought more tea and cakes. The nanny on the side agreed, the quality of the medicinal materials is really good. The red ginseng I gave you last time was added to the bird's nest and stewed together. After eating it, the old lady looked much better. The real old lady was smiling and couldn't help but look at the person in front of her carefully. He has beautiful eyes, icy muscles, and jade bones, a face like a hibiscus, and his gestures are as good as those of a noble family's daughter. I heard that the old lady is in poor health, so I came here to take a look today. After Zhang Shuya sat down, she threw away the purpose of her visit with a smile. For a noble family like the Zhen family, there must be a doctor in the mansion. If she opens her mouth and has to check people's pulse, in the eyes of others, she will be a bit too much. After finishing speaking, Zhang Shuya looked at Mrs. Zhen's face. Wearing a delicate hairpin on her gray hair makes her look energetic, but if you look closely, you can see that there are slight bruises under her eyes, and she is obviously sleep deprived. Hey! People, they are no longer useful when they get old. Sometimes they feel dizzy and sometimes they can't sleep at night, the real old lady said as she rolled up her sleeves. Girl is here today. I'm not polite. I asked her to take my pulse to see how many years I have left in my old bones. Old madam, you will definitely live a long life. If you don't believe me, let the girl take a closer look, Mammy said, looking at Zhang Shuya expectantly. Mommy is right. The Zhen family is from a noble family. It has helped countless poor scholars. A family that has accumulated good deeds will surely be blessed. Old madam, she is doing well. There was no pulse pillow, so Zhang Shuya put her fingers on the armrests of the Nanmu armchair. Miss Zhang has just arrived in the capital not long ago. Why do you know about our efforts to help poor scholars? Zhang Shuya. Sure enough, too much words lead to mistakes. Miss is also a book lover. Master Zhen is famous and all the scholars in Yan'an admire him, Kyoja rarely interjected. Everyone likes to hear nice words, and old lady Zhen is no exception. That's all too much praise. Scholars should not pursue fame and fortune too much and lose their original intentions. Our Zhen family has been hospitable for generations and cherishes talents, so it has gained false reputation. Zhang Shuya withdrew her hand, smiled and said, just like King Yunzai in the front street, the profits are used to provide pens and books for scholars. If you calculate carefully, The rent of several shops and the backyard alone will be a lot of money. How can it be counted as rent? That's the ancestral property left by our ancestors. There is such a piece of land for everyone to gather and study. My grandson has also made many friends, all benefited greatly from it. After a moment of modesty, the old lady put down her sleeves and asked humorously, "How is it? Can I still hold my great-grandson?" Yes, of course, the old lady has a good body foundation, but she was caught in the wind during the confinement period and left the root of the headache. Zhang Shuyu paused and said, "You can find some sea salt, fry it, put it in a cloth bag and apply it once a day. Stick to it until next spring, and the root of the disease will be removed by more than half. I will write you a prescription for conditioning your body and let the palace doctor treat it according to the situation." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 105. Zhang Shuyu wrote 2 prescriptions for conditioning the body, one for calming the nerves and helping sleep, and the other for replenishing qi and blood. When the real old lady saw that Zhang Shuyu had good handwriting and described her condition accurately, she dispelled her doubts. Many years ago, when her eldest granddaughter was not married yet, the old lady asked her granddaughter to learn how to host a banquet. She clearly remembered that Miss Zhang came to the banquet. She was charming and beautiful, and she was particularly eye-catching among many noble ladies. But Miss Zhang was a girl in the boudoir, and she naturally knew piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting, but her superb medical skills could not be faked. And the mansion was worth a lot of money. If she was a girl from the Shangshu mansion, she would not be able to afford the mansion even if she sold all the belongings of the Shangshu mansion. Seeing Zhang Shuyu put down her pen and ink, the nanny picked up the prescription and blew it gently. Madame Zhen put away her thoughts and said with a smile, "I would like to ask you a question. How old is Miss Zhang? Are your family members around?" "Thank you for your concern, old lady. I am already in my 20s, and my family is still in Yan'an for the time being." Zhang Shuyu deliberately made her age vague so that Madame Zhen would not take it personally. Madame Zhen was a little anxious to ask such a rude question to a girl when they first met. Seeing Zhang Shuyu's generous answer, Madame Zhen smiled and praised, "The girl is so young, but her medical skills are so great, it's not easy." Zhang Shuyu gave some more precautions and left. Madame Zhen knew that she had to go to the clinic again, so she couldn't keep her, so she asked the nanny to go to the warehouse to pick out a piece of top-quality cloud and mist silk as a return gift. Zhang Shuyu couldn't refuse, so she had to accept it. The nanny watched the housekeeper Zhen send the person out of the courtyard, and said with a smile, "This girl is not bad, she looks as beautiful as a fairy, kind and gentle, and can cure diseases and save lives. It's a pity that she is 3 years older than Master Sunday. Jingxiu is 18 years old, how can she be 3 years older? As the saying goes, a girl 3 years older than you is worth a fortune. I think it's good for a girl to be older." The nanny bowed and smiled, "What the old lady said is right, but I don't know what kind of people are in the girl's family, whether they are officials or businessmen." The real old lady was confident, "No hurry, there will be plenty of time to find out later." If it weren't for her husband praising Zhang Shuyu's talent, she wouldn't have been willing to ask so many questions. The scholarly family always believes in judging people by their writing. After seeing the real person, the real old lady finally understood why her husband and grandson praised this girl. Zhang Shuyu and Kaiuju returned to the mansion, and Kaiuju gave the return gift from the real old lady to Lan'er. Gao Mu drove the carriage to send the two to the clinic. Sitting in the carriage, Kaiuju said happily, "Miss, the old lady's eyes were shining when she looked at you just now. Could she want to come to propose marriage?" Zhang Shuyu smiled cunningly, "Yes. If she comes to propose marriage, I will marry you. Ahem. Hearing Gao Mu cough, Zhang Shiyu lifted the curtain and asked, Gao Mu, have you caught a cold? I'll get you a prescription and boil it back home. Thank you for your concern, miss. I just have a sore throat. A sore throat is also a cold. Zhang Shiyu's occupational disease recurred. When Gao Mu sent her and Kyoja to the clinic, she personally grabbed a decoction for Gao Mu to take back. Time flies, and Zhang Shiyu is busy day and night. One night, she entered the space as usual to study the prescription. When she passed the spiritual soil, she found that she had casually broken off a few bags of tender corn. The tender corn in the whole field was piled on one side. She immediately thought of boiled corn cobs and roasted corn. She picked up a few corn seeds and put them back into the spiritual soil. There should be corn for sale in the market at this time of year. Due to the long drought, farmers are almost out of food, so how can they sell tender corn? Zhang Shiyu thought of the reproduction speed of meat rabbits, and she walked towards the grassland. The time in the space is 10 times longer than outside. There are rabbits running around all over the ground, more than double the number of the previous few days. Looking at the snow-white meat rabbits, she had a bold idea. But the time has not come yet, so she has to endure it. The dawn is just ahead, and the mood is also happy. That night, Zhang Shiyu broke through the bottleneck and matched a prescription to restrain the epidemic cold. She immediately copied a copy of each of the 3 prescriptions, wrote down the symptoms and usage details, and finally attached a letter. After packing everything up, she went to sleep in the space. In the morning, she left the space and it was still dawn after washing up. In the garden, there was a sound of breaking through the air, and 2 figures were seen flying up and down, as fast as lightning. Hearing the footsteps, Gao Mu and Ken Yun sheathed their swords. Morning, miss. The 2 jumped and landed not far from Zhang Shiyu and bowed. Who of you will deliver this letter to Yan'an and hand it over to the prince? The content is very important. The sooner the better. Ken Yun stepped forward, miss, I have contacted the prince's people, and I will deliver it to them immediately. Before the hour of Chen, Ken Yun handed the letter to Xiao Jingzhao's contact in the capital. After the letter was sent out, Zhang Shiyu felt relieved. The flood season was approaching, and the clear sky did not mean that it would rain. One day, Zhang Shiyu had just sent away the patients in the clinic, and a woman who looked like a housekeeper walked into the clinic. Seeing Zhang Shiyu, the housekeeper was slightly stunned, and then bowed respectfully. He said straight to the point, I am a servant of Lord Du Zhong. I wonder if you can come to see patients. Du Zhong is the family of the Dali Temple. Zhang Shiyu pretended not to know and nodded slightly, you can come to see patients, but the consultation fee is a little higher. It's okay. As long as the young lady is willing to go, the medical fee is not a problem. The woman took the opportunity to look at Zhang Shiyu again. Zhang Shiyu asked about the condition. It turned out that Miss Du had a poor appetite and refused to eat. Ms. Du was anxious and sent the housekeeper to ask her to go and see. Kyoja carried the medicine box and followed Zhang Shiyu to the Du family's carriage. After entering the Du mansion, she followed the housekeeper to an exquisite courtyard. After the maid under the porch reported, a clear and beautiful voice came from the room, please ask the female doctor to come in. Judging from the voice, she was full of energy and did not sound like a sick person. Walking into the room, Zhang Shiyu's eyes lit up. The woman's eyebrows were bright, her face was delicate and beautiful, and her smoke gauze made her look elegant and noble. She leaned lazily on the small couch, her posture was weak, her neck was as slender and white as a swan, her wrists were like snow, and her whole person was indescribably gentle and soft. Sister Zhang. The woman saw who was coming and suddenly sat up straight. The girl sitting on the small couch was none other than Du Yutong, who was engaged to the 3rd son of the Wei family. Zhang Shiyu smiled lightly, Miss Du is right, my surname is Zhang. Du Yutong. They are so similar. Du Yutong is 3 years younger than Zhang Shiyu. Seeing that Zhang Shiyu behaved generously and was not as shy as a girl in the boudoir, she hesitated when she looked at the beauty mole on her bright face, thinking that it was such a coincidence that there were such similar people in the world. The girl looks in good spirits, not like she is sick. SHH. Du Yutong glanced at the door and made a gesture to keep quiet. After making sure that there was only the maid in her room outside the door, she said, "Miss Zhang, can you write me a prescription for a terminal illness?" After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cup and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 106. The mother-in-law on the side knelt down with a pop. "Miss, no matter how much madam indulges you, don't act nonsense. Even if you refuse the Wei family's marriage, if word spreads that the girl is sick and cowardly, how will you discuss marriage in the future? Is it okay for me to turn my back on you and not marry? If you ask me to marry that well-dressed beast, I'd rather run into him and die." When Miss Du Yutong Jiao's temper got worse, the mother-in-law couldn't do anything about it either. "Miss, think about this master. This matter is of great importance, and he also has his own reasons." "Humph. Aren't you just afraid of the one in the palace? Not only did the Du family marry an aunt in the past, but this also requires sacrificing my life's happiness, and I'm not willing to do so." Zhang Shiyu and Qiuju looked at each other and realized that the Du family and the Wei family were engaged. Qiuju winked at Zhang Shiyu, meaning that young Master Wei and Zhang Jiaojiao were having sex, right? "Why are you still engaged to the Du family? So what's going on with Zhang Jiaojiao?" Zhang Shiyu has been very busy recently, but she also asked Kang Yun to inquire about Zhang Jiaojiao's marriage. "I learned that Zhang Jiaojiao had trysts with Mr. Wei San in the tea house every now and then. The big ship of the Wei family would sink sooner or later. Zhang Shiyu didn't need to take action, she could just wait for Zhang Jiaojiao to commit suicide. Today's trip was a worthwhile trip, letting her know about the marriage between the Wei and Du families. If she didn't do something, she would be really sorry for her former concubine." After having a dispute with Qiuju for a while, the servant girl stopped trying to persuade her to no avail. At this time, a maid came in with tea and cakes. Du Yutong, who was furious, realized that the person he invited was still standing. "Sister Zhang, come and sit down quickly." "Can I call you Sister Zhang? You look very much like a sister I once met," Du Yutong said, his eyebrows suddenly softened, and he patted the small couch. Zhang Shiyu didn't hesitate, walked over and sat down. "I'm a few years older than Miss Du. It's not a loss if the daughter of the minister of Dali Temple calls me sister. If Miss Du can trust me, I can find a way to make the Wei family willingly terminate their engagement with you." "Are you serious about what the girl said?" Before Du Yutong could speak, the servant girl got up from the ground. Du Yutong was so excited that she grabbed Zhang Shiyu's arm, her eyes shining. "Sister Zhang, do you really have a way?" Zhang Shiyu smiled and nodded. Du Yutong was so happy that he almost jumped up and shook Zhang Shiyu's arm vigorously. He said cheerfully like a sparrow, "Sister Zhang, it's great to get to know you. You are as kind-hearted as the sister I know." The servant woman was also very excited. "Blessed by Bodhisattva, the second young lady has met a noble man today. If there is a way to peacefully terminate the engagement with the Wei family, my wife will not have to argue with the master. To be fair to Miss Du, I own a medical clinic and go to the medical clinic for consultation every day. One day I passed by a tea house and happened to see young Master Wei and a girl entering the tea house one after the other. If it was once, it would be a coincidence, but I have seen him 3 times. I think young Master Wei already has someone he likes. Sister Zhang, are you saying that young Master Wei was forced to marry me?" Du Yutong did not feel disappointed at being disliked by others. Instead, he was extremely pleasantly surprised, as if he had grasped a life-saving straw. Zhang Shiyu smiled lightly and said, "Don't worry, Miss Du, the marriage between two families has been a matter of parents' order since ancient times. Maybe young Master Wei also has his own reasons. What should we do? If the girl asks my wife to ask Mrs. Wei will definitely not admit it. If the girl doesn't get into the Wei family, they will immediately bring a whole room of ants into the house. The servant woman was panicking. A mess. Don't worry, it's useless to rush this matter. If Mr. Wei and the girl have a private meeting next time, and you bring people to call the Wei family to confront them, the Wei family will no longer be pestering the Gentai. Bar. Thank you very much, Sister Zhang. Please give me a gift from my sister. Du Yutong stood up quickly and gave Zhang Shiyu a courtesy. Miss Du, you're welcome. Zhang Shiyu stood up and held her arm. Then Du Yutong's eyes turned red. Sister Zhang, this news is so important to me. I haven't had a good night's sleep since I changed the Zhengde. Everyone outside said that young Master Wei is a gentle and humble gentleman. My aunt of the Du family married the second wife of the Wei family. My aunt has nothing to do. The old lady of the Wei family has stuffed no less than 5 concubines in my aunt's courtyard. Du Yutong sniffed. My aunt once told my mother when she came back. She said that all the sons of the Wei family look like dogs, but they are all bad guys at heart. Zhang Shiyu also knew some of what Du Yutong said. Don't worry, miss, I will go and report to the madam right now. The servant girl bowed and was about to leave. Du Yutong quickly shouted and warned, don't make this matter public. Don't let father know about it. Let the people in mother's room keep an eye on it. Men have different considerations. The Wei family has great power, and the minister of Dali Temple is also wary of it. As long as the matter of young Master Wei's secret meeting with a woman is made clear, the Wei family can only accept the Du family's annulment. The servant stepped back, and Du Yutong took Zhang Shiyu's hand and sat down. Sister Zhang, you and I hit it off right away. Can I go and play with you often? Of course you can. There are many girls in my medical clinic. You can identify medicinal materials with them when you come here. From now on, no one can fool you in the back house. Du Zhong was afraid of the Wei family. To be precise, the 4 major families in the capital were not as harmonious as they seemed. The emperor, the courtiers, and the marquises and nobles conferred by Emperor Renzong all fell silent. If Xiao Jingzhao wants to sit in that position, he also needs to win over powerful officials. One more friend is better than one more person who causes trouble. Du Yutong has a good nature, and Zhang Shiyu is also willing to make friends with her. When I cancel the Wei family's marriage, I will have plenty of time to go to the medical clinic to find you. Sister Zhang, please don't bother me. Du Yutong was really hungry, so he held up the cakes and asked Zhang Shiyu and Xiuju to try them. Zhang Shiyu and Xiuju waved their hands. We just had lunch and we really can't eat at the moment. Du Yutong was really hungry. He no longer cared about the modesty of a lady, picked up a piece of pastry, put it in his mouth, and ate it with big mouthfuls. Today, in order to force my mother to talk to my father about breaking off the engagement, I really didn't eat lunch. Seeing her voracious appetite, Zhang Shiyu stood up and said goodbye. Since Miss Du can eat and drink, I will go back to the medical clinic. Well, no, Sister Zhang, wait a moment. Du Yutong swallowed the cake in his mouth and grabbed Zhang Shiyu's wrist. Zhang Shiyu felt her wrists were slightly cold. She looked down and saw a jade bracelet with a lot of water on Rug Xiu's wrist. Miss Du, is this impossible? Zhang Shiyu was about to take off her jade bracelet and return it. Du Yutong held Zhang Shiyu's hand. Sister Zhang, can you call me Sister Yutong from now on? The first time I saw you, you were extremely kind, just like my eldest sister. You are my sister's personal belongings. Just don't refuse. Looking at Du Yutong's earnest eyes, Zhang Shiyu couldn't say anything in refusal. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, Placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix.